Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for the mid-season finale of American Horror Story Freak Show, Episode 10, Orphans. I did not know what this episode was going to be like. I really didn't. The last episode I was not very fond of. You guys know that. You guys know that I thought it was weird. And this episode I really was not looking forward to. I knew there wasn't going to be any dandy. The promo looked somewhat promising. It looked like we were only going to focus on the freaks and they were actually going to give Maggie something to do finally. But how was this episode? Half of it was very good. The rest of it sucked. Now, this episode honestly felt like two different episodes. It really did. The part of this episode that worked really well was Pepper. Pepper finally had something to do this season. They finally realized, oh wait, Pepper's on the show. We gotta give her something to do. That's literally what it felt like to me. It did not feel like Pepper had any sort of arc on this show. It seemed like they finally woke up and said, hey, we gotta do something with Pepper, which I thought was very well handled. We will talk about that. But the other part of this episode completely sucked, and if it wasn't for Pepper's storyline, this episode would have been terrible. It really would have, because everything that was not going on with Pepper put me to sleep. And this did not feel like a mid-season finale. No, it did not. It had good stuff in there, but it really did not feel like a mid-season finale. It just felt like a standard episode. Nothing in this episode changes the show. Nothing in the show nothing in this episode is going to change really any storylines. Really, there's really nothing that's going to change except for one reveal that was horribly handled and a very good backstory, which I definitely really enjoyed. So let's just get to this episode. I am going to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it by plot, because I really want to talk about the stuff I liked first and the stuff I didn't like. So it's really going to be like a pros and cons kind of review, because the stuff I really liked had to do with Pepper, the stuff I didn't like had to do with everyone else. So we start off where we get this beautiful narration from Elsa. I thought it was very well done in my opinion. I think this was the first episode where Elsa really played a emotional part in the show. I mean, a lot of the episodes lately, she's been portrayed as a monster. We have seen that she's had reasons for doing the things she's done, but I think this was the first time that she really had me emotional in this episode, definitely. She's talking about the death, basically, it opens with the death of Pepper's husband, randomly. It goes to Pepper's husband, and Salty, he's dead. He died while being asleep. Now, my complaint with this is that it's very well handled, but it was way too abrupt. There was no build-up to this. There was really nothing. There wasn't any build-up. There wasn't anything that was like, okay, I understand why they did that. No, randomly, he's just dead. And I was like, okay, I don't know how to feel about that. However, the payoff is very good. What I don't like is what happens next. Basically, she's giving this beautiful narration and everything. Pepper is completely going insane. She's not leaving the bed. She's not eating and things like that. And Elsa talks about the death with Stanley, also known as Arthur, who has a letter from the head of a TV network, and he convinces Elsa to rest up for her show, leaving Salty's body for him to deal with. And, of course, he ends up chopping off Salty's head and putting it on display at the museum. Yay, I really care about that. Honestly, Stanley has nothing to do. All he does is make deals with people and kill freaks. That is all he does, and there's nothing different that his character's going to do. He's not going to get anything new to do. I just want something to happen to him. I want him to get some sort of threat. I want him to be portrayed in a way where I actually don't want to just scream at him every time he's on screen. I'm sick of his character. I'm sick of what he's doing. Him and Maggie are ruining the show for me, and I'm going to talk about why. So, Del visits Desiree, who's reading a book to Pepper, and I thought this was a well-done scene. I enjoyed it overall. The two are speaking alone. Del is begging for forgiveness. He wants to get back to her, but Desiree knows that, she could never make him truly happy. She can tell that he, really does not love her anymore. She can just tell that. And the two appear to have made amends. It seems like everything's okay between them. And we don't see any of that for the rest of the episode. It's gone. For the rest of the episode, we don't see any of that, and that would really piss me off, because I actually was into that storyline. I thought that was a well-done storyline, and they didn't even focus on it. However, what they do focus on here was just amazing. A very large portion of this episode were flashbacks, and I know a lot of people don't really like the flashbacks, but These are probably the best flashbacks they've ever done. Really, they were. I think they were personally better than the twisty ones. The twisty ones were very well done, but these were a lot longer and a lot more elaborate. And now we pretty much know everything we need to know about Elsa, which I loved finding out. Desiree meets with Elsa to prepare for the show, and they have a drink, and we actually finally find out what happened with Elsa in the freak show, why she created and things like that. And we find out that she worked as a chorus girl in Boston before the war, knowing that war was imminent and the able-bodied carnies would be taken away to fight and work. She schemed to create her own circus of freaks, and the first freak she found was Pepper. And finding that out really made us care more about Elsa and Pepper. I thought that was a very well-done twist because you could see that she was very concerned about Pepper. And now we know why, because Pepper was the first freak. Pepper really was the one that got this freak show started, got it running. And basically with Pepper, Pepper was in an orphanage. This is how she found her. And after all of her family had died except for her sister, who found Pepper way too much to handle, she was already 18, and most people, Elsa explains that at 18, most people, don't go to orphanages, but Pepper has a very, childish personality. You know how Pepper is. We've seen her in, Asylum. And she was permitted to leave with Elsa, who says that she loved her unconditionally. And eventually, Elsa, basically there was this really weird twist with how Ma Petite came in. Pepper's maternal instincts were answered by the arrival of Ma Petite, who was purchased from Elsa from a traveling Marja, who sold his pet for 3 cases of Dr. Pepper. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry, but that's just ridiculous. That the reason she got him to leave was because of Dr. Pepper. I'm sorry. That made me laugh. Okay, I know that wasn't supposed to, but it made me laugh. And especially because it's Dr. Pepper, and it's Pepper just, oh my god. But Ma Petite was the second freak, and Elsa answered Pepper's desire for a mate as well, and that's how she found Salty, and they had the marriage and everything. And I thought that was a very well-done scene. We saw the marriage, and Desiree is mourning for Pepper, who, she basically realizes that Pepper has no one now. She has no one, and obviously they're very upset about it. And Elsa and Desiree now think that it might be time to seek out Pepper's sister. And I thought that was a good twist, because I'm like, okay, I know what this episode's going to do. I could already tell that this episode was going to show us what ended up happening to Pepper. You can already tell this episode's going to feel like a closing arc. However, for the next, few minutes of the episode, they just completely abandon this plot, and they don't go back to it, and they don't focus on it at all. And it was really annoying, because what happens next is just really, really dumb, and I'm going to get to it, but you'll see my hatred come out in a little bit, but it's honestly really annoying what ends up happening. So let's go back to Elsa and Pepper, because I'm going to talk about the stuff I didn't like after I talk about Elsa and Pepper. Elsa and Pepper, they meet up with her sister in Massachusetts, and her sister just probably the worst character we've ever had on this show. She literally is worse than Dandy. I mean, what I like about her sister was it's showing the message of this show. Of course, the message of the show is trying to show that people were, how rude people were to people with disabilities in the 1950s, how they thought they were different, how they didn't treat them normally, and we finally got that back tonight. We haven't had that back in a very long time, and I was very happy that we finally got that back, because that's the point of this show. The point of the show is not about killing freaks. The point of the show is not about Jimmy's love life. The point of the show is not about the twins' happiness. The point of the show is seeing how people treated the freaks and seeing how the freaks overcome it. That's really what this show is all about. And I love that they finally got back to it. And I really wish that the rest of the season would have been as good as this storyline was. This probably was the most well-handled storyline so far besides Dandy. This was the equivalent of Dandy's storyline. In fact, I think that, really this really saved me from how the rest of the episode. So, her sister reveals that she thought she could never live a standard marital life while taking care of Pepper, and you can just tell right away, her sister is a complete bitch. She's a complete bitch. She has no idea how to take care of a freak. She doesn't respect Pepper. She's not nice to her. She's rude to her. I hated her sister. Terrible. Great actress, but just, oh my god. Especially when we find out some more stuff about her. She was able to fill that dream anyway because of a fertility issue, and she tells Elsa that her husband doesn't even know Pepper exists. So, she's not sure how he's going to take it, how she could possibly take Pepper in, and Elsa's growing to anger when it's evident that Pepper's sister doesn't appreciate her, let alone love her, and you can tell that she doesn't really give two shits about her. So Pepper's sister agrees to let her live with them, and Elsa doesn't realize how a mistake she's making. And we get this scene was legitimately very, very well handled. Elsa and Pepper share a tearful goodbye, and Elsa leaves, and she tells her that she'll always be there for her if she needs her. And that was just so well done, because think about it, Pepper was the first freak. Elsa and Pepper connected perfectly. In a lot of ways, they're really mother and daughter. They really are. So I thought that was just so well done. I really felt bad for Pepper, especially because of what happens next. Because guess who shows up next? And I freaked out when we saw who showed up next. Now, I knew it was happening. I knew it was happening in this episode because they teased it was going to happen. People were expecting it to happen, but it happened. Sister Mary Eunice is back. She's finally back on the show. And basically, we finally see how Pepper got to the asylum in American Horror Story Asylum. And I knew that's what this episode was going to do. I knew they were going to do that because they were focusing so heavily on Pepper in the first, 25 minutes. And then they abandoned it. And then the rest of this episode is just Pepper. And I thought this was so well done. It honestly felt like it's really the only storyline this season that feels like a legitimate arc. It really feels like a legit character arc. It really feels like Pepper has had a complete arc, and I think that's very well done. So she tells Sister Mary, her sister's there and everything, and she tells Sister Mary Eunice that she was unable to have a baby named Lucas that she frequently put in Pepper's care, causing Pepper to occasionally mix up Lucas's bottle with a cocktail she was asked to prepare. And she basically just makes it seem like it's all Pepper's fault. She's like, oh, it's all my sister's fault. She had all these problems and everything. Well, the thing is, Pepper has a lot of problems, mentally. She has a disability, and she doesn't realize that. So the story continues that Pepper was obsessed with her brother-in-law, walking around the house naked, and in a flashback, it's revealed that neither Pepper's sister nor her husband could stand their crying baby or Pepper when he shares his plan to kill two birds with one stone. And Pepper's sister tells Sister Mary Eunice that Pepper killed baby Lucas. That was their plan. They wanted to make it seem like Pepper killed baby Lucas while giving him a bath. And I'm like, there is no way Pepper did that. Pepper is one of the nice people on the show. Pepper is so kind. Pepper would never do something like that. Another flashback shows that it actually was the brother-in-law drying the baby after locking Pepper outside. And I knew it. I knew it was him because, there's no way that Pepper did it. So, basically, Pepper is forced to be taken to the asylum, and it's so sad because now we know how she got there. It's all connecting. It's all making sense, and I love that they did this. I honestly want to see them do this with other characters. I really wish they bring on other characters from Asylum and connect it because it really works very, very well. And this was probably the most emotional scene of the entire episode. It really made me cry, and I thought it was very, very well handled. I love this scene. Thought this was great. Sister Mary Eunice meets with Pepper later in her cell, and when she sees that Pepper feels remorse, she frees her from her confines, and, she tells her that she's sorry that she killed the baby, but she can tell that Pepper didn't really do anything, so she sets out to task organizing the library, calling Pepper a special project, and, you can definitely see how her and Pepper bonded. You can definitely see she felt very bad for her. We as an audience feel very bad for Pepper because, she did nothing wrong. She was just misunderstood. And she sees Elsa on the coverage of a Life magazine. And Elsa's going to be on TV now. And Pepper really is thinking back to those happy times that she had. Now she knows it's not going to get any better. She's going to be trapped in this asylum. She can never come out. And she's stuck here. So I thought that was just amazingly well done. I cried. I legitimately cried. I thought that was so well done. And just Naomi Grossman killing it as Pepper. She is so good. Naomi Grossman has proved herself to probably be the best actress on this show. Amazing acting. Just so, so good in this episode. Now, this whole episode could have been like that. This whole episode could have been just that storyline. However, this is this season, of course. And the problem with this season is that it's very all over the place. And the problem with the last episode is that it was very all over the place. And basically, as I said, this was the equivalent of a Dandy storyline. And just like a Dandy storyline, everything else putting me asleep. Putting me to sleep. I did not give two shits about the other plot in this episode. I didn't. I really didn't care. Okay, I was so into Pepper's storyline that I did not care about this. There was some stuff I did like here, but I really did not like what they did. Desiree has a new boyfriend, Angus, that guy, Malcolm Jamal Warner, who, it's really weird that he was, fascinated by her tits, and that's why they're together. That's just really juvenile. I understand it's supposed to be funny, but it's just really stupid. She meets with Maggie, and she wants them to read their fortune, and Maggie, of course, she's starting to be on to Maggie, because Maggie is starting to go crazy. You can tell that Maggie doesn't really want to do this anymore, and she starts to spin a tale of a happy couple for the future before saying that everything will eventually end badly, perhaps even with Desiree cooking up tar shit in the previous episode. And Desiree confronts Maggie, and Maggie's drunk at this point, and she reveals to Desiree that she and Stanley are a criminal duo. And just the flashback in this episode, what the hell was that about? That was completely pointless. We literally see how Maggie met up with Stanley. Maggie was pretending to be a paperboy and doing like a robbery, and Stanley recruited her and told everyone that Maggie was his son because she was just like a paperboy basically. She looked like she was like from the cast of Newsies or something, but that's like what happened. I thought that was interesting, but like I don't care about these characters. I don't care what happens to Maggie, because Maggie in this episode completely changes, and it's so weird. Maggie tries to convince Desiree that she and Stanley are simply in the business of picking pockets, but Desiree points out that multiple freaks have died since the duo showed up, and Desiree is just awesome in this episode. Anytime Desiree's on screen, I have no problem with Desiree. Desiree's a great character. I love that Desiree she doesn't take shit from people. She doesn't. She will do, like, she cares about these freaks. She wants them to have a good life. She will not let them, end up in a bad situation. She will do whatever she can to protect them, and I love that. She really is the real mother of the freak show, and I really like they're doing it with Desiree. I don't like what they're really doing with the storyline now. Desiree threatens to kill Maggie if she finds out they were responsible for any of the deaths, and the Fox, the fake fortune teller, heads back to her tent to find Ben and Dot, and all of a sudden Maggie is basically Madison 2.0. She literally is Madison in this scene. And I literally tweeted, is Maggie turning into Madison? Because Maggie, let's talk about Maggie's arc for a little bit. First half of this season, Maggie was a character who we did not know if she was good or bad. We didn't know if she was telling the truth. She was a good character because of that. She was very compelling because we didn't know if she really cared about Jimmy. We didn't know if she really liked what she was doing. We didn't know her real reactions to things. And then they decided to turn her into like the best person ever, and it really did not work. It did not work when they turned her into the best person ever. It really turned me off when they did that, and honestly, it got really boring because of that. And now you're gonna turn her into a bitch? What? Like, it seems like they literally just did that so Maggie is gonna become more interesting of a character. That does not turn her into more interesting of a character. All that does is make me hate her more, because Maggie is now not only a pointless character, but she's a bitch. Like, she's a downright bitch. She's like, I don't care about anything. I don't care about you. Da 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 da. My life matters. She's literally Madison. She's bitching about things. She's exactly how Madison was, and it's ridiculous. The rest of the episode, she is Madison. And Maggie basically, Ben and Dot want her to find a lawyer, to hire a lawyer for Jimmy, and Maggie denies her offer, picks a fight with the twins, who thrust the money into Maggie's arms as they leave, because of course Jimmy's in jail, and we don't even focus on that. Like, that was a very well done plot twist, and we didn't even focus on that in this episode. And remember, this is the mid-season finale, and we did not focus on this at all. We have one quick scene, and that's Jimmy shown behind bars. Stanley visits him, and I'm like, oh god, Stanley's gonna plot something with Jimmy. Fantastic. I can't wait to see what it is. Basically, Jimmy explains that he blacked out for a long period of time when he was drinking away his grief for his mother, and in fact, he thinks it might even be possible that he did kill people, and we know it's Dandy that did and everything, and Stanley wants to hire a lawyer for Jimmy, but Jimmy has no money. Stanley cryptically suggests a way for Jimmy to get the cash, and they don't even remember why Jimmy's put into jail. Jimmy doesn't even think of the possibility of Dandy. Dandy is not even mentioned in this episode, which pisses me off. Jimmy, I would have been fine if Dandy was mentioned. You don't want to have Dandy in the episode, you want to focus on the freaks, fine, I understand that. At least mention Dandy. Jimmy, Dandy is the reason why you're in jail. Dandy framed you. That's why you're in jail right now. And you're not even going to think about it. You're not even going to talk about it. You're not going to say, hey, I was framed. You're not going to try to get yourself out of jail. It's just ridiculous. Jimmy, again, I talked about this. The first half of this season, Jimmy seemed like what he was going to do is he was going to, basically be the one to help out the freaks and get them not to turn back down. If you remember, in the first episode, they killed that police officer because he called them freaks, and he freaked out. Jimmy freaked out about it. He killed him and everything, and he told the freaks that, hey, we're going to work together and kill people. Where did that go? Nowhere. that went nowhere. They did nothing with that. They completely changed his character. When Maggie came onto the show, Jimmy's storyline became, who is he going to fall in love with? And now Jimmy is a complete pussy. And I don't like the way they're writing him. Evan Peters is so much more capable of this, and this is what you give him. And I honestly feel very bad for him, because I personally think Evan Peters is a very good actor. I really do. He had some very good scenes with Jimmy this season. And now it's like they're doing nothing with him. So Desiree's cooking back at the camp. She has this like really long monologue about cooking. And she now intends to raise a family with Angus. And Maggie's mocking her and everything. And again, Maggie's acting like a total bitch. And basically, she pulls her aside to talk about Jimmy. She says that everyone in the camp will die soon if Desiree doesn't help her. Scheming to frame Stanley for everything. Now, I like that plot. I think it's very well done. Where they go with it is ridiculous. Because, of course, Maggie takes Desiree to the museum to tell her everything about Stanley. Desiree steps in to find Ma Petite's body, Salty's head, and there's Jimmy's hands. I legitimately was like, seriously, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen on the show. And I saw all of Coven last year. And honestly, guys, I was more into Coven than I was into Freak Show. I'm going to be honest. Because Coven, what it did was, it was a show that was not meant to be taken seriously. It moved along. It was very fast-paced. It was interesting enough. It wasn't boring. Yes, it had the weirdest storylines ever, but it wasn't boring. I was still interested in it. The cliffhanger was very well done last year, and I was more into it than I was with Freak Show. Honestly, Coven, I really had no problems with it, because I just had a good time with it. I really did. Coven, I had a good time with it. I didn't take it too seriously. Freak Show, though, you can't do that. Freak Show is a drama. You can't really do that, and it's not working. It's just not working, and basically, that's the episode. That's all that happened in this episode. And I know what you're saying. What the hell was that? That's not a very satisfying episode. No, it was not. This episode was not satisfying at all, in my opinion. Nothing about this episode really changes anything. We had a really nice arc with Pepper. We had a really nice backstory with her. Fine. Make the episode Pepper-centric for all I care. Just this whole thing with Maggie and Desiree could have been handled so much better. We should have gotten something with this in the beginning of last week's episode. We should have gotten that confrontation with Desiree and Maggie in the beginning of last week's episode, because they had that thing with Danny and Maggie and they didn't take that anywhere. They had the thing with, like, literally, Maggie just seems like kind of character that's just there to help people. That's all she's there for. Maggie is literally just there to help people do things, and I don't like her character. She's boring. She's wooden. She's uninteresting. She's a bitch now. I don't like her. And I want her gone. And I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to this season. I was so into it in the first half. It's so sad to say I'm not into American Horror Story anymore. But I'm not. And you guys can say, oh, you're not focusing. No, I'm focusing. And I'm trying to find things I'm liking about it. I sit there every single week and I'm like, I really want to like this episode. This episode, I had watched, like, I really wanted to like this episode. And I really was looking forward to it. I was thinking, okay, maybe this can work. Pepper stuff came out. I'm like, okay, I'm hopeful. Then they completely abandon it. That doesn't make any sense. This episode felt like two separate episodes. It felt like one episode was about Pepper's backstory, and the other was random Find Jimmy bullshit. Like, it went nowhere. It went completely nowhere, except that we know that Stanley cut off Jimmy's hands, and that went nowhere as well. And the fact that we just ended there is ridiculous. The fact that there was another scene before that was insane. The fact that there's nothing that's really going to change the show. The fact that I don't know what's going to happen in the last 3 episodes. And I'm by the way, guys, we have 3 episodes left and there's nothing that big that's happened, like, at all. The most that's happened is Pepper's storyline and Twisty dying and everything that's going on with Dandy. Besides that, we've had nothing, and it's ridiculous. And I know Neil Patrick Harris coming onto the show. Please tell me he's going to save it. I mean, I didn't see the promo, but I heard he looks really good. But I don't know what happened. I was so into the first... Episode 1 was amazing. Amazing way to start the season. Episode 2 was amazing. Episode 3 I loved. Episode 4 I loved. Episode 5, while it wasn't the best, it was still really good. Episode 6 was really good. Episode 7 was really good. Episode 8 was just amazing. And then something happened last week. Now I feel they just don't know how to write for the show anymore. They really feel like they I really feel like they've done 2 seasons, and I know what the problem is. They have too many characters on this show. Stanley and Maggie are making things completely uninteresting. They're making things not very, interesting. And the stuff that we should be caring about, I don't care about. I don't care about what happens to the freaks, honestly, because there's no one really there to like anymore. Let's talk about who's there still. Desiree, Maggie, Bet, Dot, possibly Jimmy if he's not dead, Stanley, Elsa. There's no one really to root for. Ben and Dot, I like them, but they're very, Ben and Dot, they're the main characters of the show, and they're not that interesting. Maggie, you guys know my thoughts on. Stanley, you guys know my thoughts on, but they're not interesting, in my opinion, and they're not doing what they should be doing with this season. The whole purpose of the season, I thought, was going to show how people were treated and how it's not going to let them back down. The first half of the season really made it seem like it was going to be an emotional season and not as much, crazy stuff going on. But the crazier the season gets, the more ridiculous it gets, because it works better as an emotional show. And that really worked. That really showed with Pepper's storyline. Pepper's storyline was insane. But it wasn't insane to the point where it was unbelievable. It actually worked. It held water to it. It made sense. It wasn't completely out of nowhere. It was something that I could actually understand. I wasn't shaking my head what the hell did they just do? I wasn't like that. I actually enjoyed Pepper's storyline. But the other stuff, I just am where are they going with this? Because I have no idea where they're going. Del has nothing to do now. Nothing. He has one scene and then he goes away. And I don't like the way they're treating that at all, because Michael Chiklis is very good in this role. And I know a lot of people don't like Del, but they're slowly getting us to care for him, and then they just completely abandon it. And I don't like that they're doing that. They keep abandoning things. They keep abandoning plots. They keep making the show seem like 2 different shows. It's like they don't know what they want to do. Dandy is supposed to be going after the freaks. He should be going after the freaks by now. That was supposed to tie in. It honestly feels like a different show. Anytime you have Dandy, it feels like a different show. The whole Jimmy Dandy thing wasn't even in this episode, and it pissed me off because that's something I was looking forward to. I was looking forward to see if Jimmy was planning on some sort of revenge mission on Dandy. That would have been a good cliffhanger. If we would have had a cliffhanger of Jimmy basically planning out something for Dandy and maybe bailing himself out of jail. That's what Jimmy would do. Jimmy is a risk taker. We saw that in the beginning of the season. Jimmy would get himself out of jail. Jimmy wouldn't just sit there and brood. Jimmy's not like that. Jimmy would not just sit there and vent to someone. Jimmy would do his best to get himself out of jail. I understand Jimmy's broken because of his mother, but you can't be broken so much that you just lose who you are. And I'm tired that they're just rewriting characters. That's what they're doing. They're rewriting characters. They rewrote Maggie. They rewrote Jimmy. Who's next? I don't want them to rewrite anyone else. Thank God they've kept Elsa the same. Thank God they've kept Dandy the same. Thank God they've kept Desiree. Desiree is making the show, is making that plot interesting. Desiree's funny to watch. Angela Bassett's great, but that's really all I care about with that. That's really all. I don't care that Jimmy's dead. If Jimmy's dead, I don't care, honestly, because it was handled horribly. If it would have been handled better, yes, I would care, but it was handled horribly, so I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if Jimmy's dead or not. So honestly, guys, I really liked this episode. I really did. Half of it I really, really loved, and if it was just Pepper, this would have been the best episode of the season. I really want to say it was. Pepper stuff, yes, it was. The rest of the stuff, no. It was boring. It was stupid. It was pointless. It went nowhere. It didn't do anything for a mid-season finale. It did not feel like a mid-season finale. We have 3 episodes left. I have no idea where they're going, and it's really annoying me. It really is. I'm sorry that I'm ranting, guys, but it's really starting to piss me off. But let me know what you guys are thinking this season. I might just quit. Honestly, guys, if this season keeps ending up like it is, I might just quit this season. If Finn Wittrock is not the main character of next season and Naomi Grossman is not on the show, I might just quit. Especially if it's true that Jessica Lange is leaving, I might just quit because I really feel like they're running out of ideas. I really feel like they need to wrap up this show. They need to tie more things into Asylum. It was very well done the way they did that, and everything else was just not that good. But I'll see you guys in the next video, which will be for another movie review. I don't know when it's going to be, either Christmas, actually no, it'll probably be for Return of the King. I think that's what it's going to be for, we'll see. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Let me know if you guys are upset about this. I know a lot of people are very bored by this season. I completely agree. It's very boring. It's not interesting. Pepper stuff was really good. The rest of the stuff was not very good. And that's basically it for my review. Okay, bye. Oh, also, guys, I don't want to say that I hate this show. I don't hate this show. I don't. There are things I really like about the show. The acting is really good on this show still. Emma Roberts' acting is actually pretty good. Dennis O'Hare's acting is pretty good. It's their characters that are annoying me and the storylines they're giving them. These actors are more capable than that. And I don't think it's the actors that we should be upset about. People are getting upset about the actors, but I don't think it's them that we should be getting upset about. It's the storylines they're writing for them. It's that they don't realize how talented they are. Jimmy, as I said, could have been a very good character, but they gave him stuff to do that really ruined his character. And it just doesn't really work anymore. So, yeah, that's basically my thoughts. I had to get that out. Sorry if you guys think that American Horror Story is the best show ever. If it does, I completely understand. That was totally me last year. Totally last year at this point. I was freaking out over the cliffhanger. And if you guys want to think that American Horror Story is the best show ever, go ahead. Yes, they handled the emotion very well. But they just are completely all over the place for the season. And I might just quit. I might. But I'll see you guys in my next video. Okay. Bye. But I will continue to watch the season. I'm going to tell you guys that. I will continue to watch this season no matter what. Okay, bye.